You do this without thinking. But thousands of years ago, it could mean life or death. You knock on wood. You avoid black cats. You say don't jinx it. But what if I told you these habits are thousands of years old? And were once meant to protect you from death, demons, and angry gods? These are historical superstitions that survived into modern life. Every day you participate in rituals so ancient, their origins are lost to time. These aren't grand ceremonies. They're small gestures, quick phrases, and sudden fears you barely notice. Tossing a coin into a fountain. Feeling a shiver when a black cat crosses your path. Saying bless you after a sneeze. You perform these acts automatically, guided by a cultural memory you can't quite place. But each one is a ghost. A whisper from a world where gods lived in water, spirits slept in trees, and the line between luck and ruin was terrifyingly thin. Today, we're going to pull back the veil on 20 superstitions you still follow, revealing the forgotten beliefs that secretly shape your modern life. Let's begin with something you might have done just this morning for a bit of good fortune. Knocking on wood. It seems like a simple, almost silly gesture to ward off bad luck. But its roots dig deep into the earth. Back to a time when pagan cultures believed that trees were not just wood, but the homes of powerful spirits and gods. To knock on a tree was to awaken its resident spirit, either to ask for a blessing and protection, or to thank it for good fortune already received. It was a direct line to the divine. Some traditions even held that the sound of knocking would scare away evil spirits who might be listening, trying to steal your good luck. So when you rap your knuckles on a table, you're not just being superstitious. You're reenacting an ancient conversation with the spirit world. From the forest, we move to the water. You see a fountain, and, without a second thought, you might reach into your pocket for a coin. You make a wish and toss it into the shimmering water. This isn't a modern tourist trap. It's a direct descendant of Roman devotion. Ancient Romans believed that natural springs and bodies of water were sacred domains, watched over by powerful gods and goddesses who controlled health and destiny. To appease these deities and ensure safe passage or good health, they would leave offerings. Coins being made of precious metals were a worthy sacrifice. Throwing a coin into a fountain was a prayer cast in bronze, a plea to the water gods for favor. The Trevi Fountain in Rome is a famous example, but the practice is a ghost of a time when every well was a temple. Now consider an image that can still make you pause: a black cat crossing your path. For many, it's an instant omen of bad luck. This fear is a dark inheritance from medieval Europe, specifically from the era of witch hunts. During this time of intense paranoia, solitary older women who often kept cats for companionship were accused of witchcraft. Their feline friends, especially mysterious black cats that were hard to see at night, were believed to be their familiars, demons, or evil spirits given animal form to assist in their dark magic. A black cat crossing your path could be a witch herself in disguise, or her demonic messenger on an evil errand. The association was so strong that the simple act of a cat walking by became a sign that you had just crossed paths with the devil himself. What about that jolt of fear when a mirror shatters? The 7 years of bad luck that supposedly follow is more than just a fable to make you careful. The ancient Romans were among the first to believe that a mirror didn't just show your reflection. It captured a piece of your soul. To break a mirror was to fracture your very essence, damaging your spirit and inviting misfortune. So where does the 7-year sentence come from? The Romans also believed that life renewed itself in 7-year cycles. Therefore, it would take 7 full years for the soul to heal and for the bad luck to finally run its course. It was a period of spiritual convalescence, a long and arduous recovery from a self-inflicted wound. Have you ever crossed your fingers for good luck? This simple gesture has a surprisingly complex and sacred origin. In the early days of Christianity, when believers were persecuted, they needed secret ways to identify each other. They would form the sign of the fish, the ichthys, by crossing their thumbs. This evolved into a more general symbol of faith and unity. A different older belief suggests the cross shape itself holds power. Pagans believed that good spirits resided at the intersection of crosses. By making the shape with your fingers, you could trap a benevolent spirit and harness its power for your wish. When someone else crossed their finger over yours, it amplified the wish, a sign of shared hope that we still mimic today. Imagine sitting at a dinner table and accidentally knocking over the salt shaker. You might feel a slight pang of irrational anxiety. This fear comes from a time when salt was an incredibly valuable almost sacred commodity. It was used for currency, medicine, and religious purification. Spilling it was not just wasteful, it was seen as a terrible omen. Because of its purifying properties, salt was believed to repel evil. Spilling it, therefore, symbolically broke that protective barrier and was seen as an open invitation to demons and malevolent spirits waiting just beyond the threshold. The tradition of throwing a pinch of spilled salt over your left shoulder was a countermove aimed to blind the devil, who was thought to lurk there, waiting for just such an opportunity. The next time someone sneezes, notice how automatically the words "bless you" leave your lips. This response is a reflex born from sheer terror. In ancient times, across many cultures, the soul was thought to be connected to the breath. A powerful sneeze, it was feared, could accidentally expel the soul from the body, leaving it vulnerable to being snatched by wandering spirits or demons. During the Great Plagues of Europe, the fear intensified. A sneeze was often the first symptom of a deadly illness. The blessing offered by Pope Gregory the Great himself was a literal prayer, a desperate plea for divine intervention to protect the sneezer's soul and save them from imminent death. The phrase "bless you" was a shield against death, and so was avoiding a specific date, Friday the 13th. This superstition is a potent cocktail of ancient fears. The fear of the number 13, or triskaidekaphobia, is ancient, possibly stemming from its position after the complete number 12. But the combination with Friday makes it truly sinister. In Norse mythology, the trickster god Loki was the 13th uninvited guest at a banquet in Valhalla, where he orchestrated the death of the beloved god Baldur. For Christians, Friday became the day of doom, the day of the crucifixion. Furthermore, it was on Friday the 13th, in 1307, that King Philip IV of France ordered the arrest and execution of the Knights Templar. The date became a perfect storm of betrayal, death, and bad omens. Let's turn to an object of luck, the horseshoe. Hung over a doorway, it's a classic symbol of good fortune. This belief combines several ancient ideas. First, the horseshoe itself was made by blacksmiths, a profession once considered magical because they mastered the element of fire and could shape iron, a metal thought to repel evil spirits and mischievous fairies. Second, the traditional C-shape was believed to trap luck inside. It had to be hung with the ends pointing up, like a bowl, to catch all the good fortune that came its way. If it were hung upside down, all the luck would spill out. It was a spiritual lightning rod and a container for good fortune, all in one. We avoid walking under ladders without a second thought, chalking it up to simple safety. But the superstition runs much deeper. When a ladder leans against a wall, it forms a triangle. For ancient Egyptians, the triangle was a sacred shape, representing the trinity of the gods and the pyramids themselves. To walk through it was to break this sacred formation and show profound disrespect to the gods, inviting their wrath. For early Christians, the triangle symbolized the Holy Trinity, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Breaking the Trinity was an act of blasphemy, aligning oneself with the devil and inviting terrible misfortune. You weren't just risking a falling paint can. You were tempting fate and profaning the sacred. On her wedding day, a bride is often shielded by a veil. Today, it's a beautiful accessory, but its original purpose was protection. The ancient Romans believed that a bride, on the happiest day of her life, was especially vulnerable to envious, evil spirits who might try to curse her or steal her happiness. The veil was a disguise, a shield to hide her face and confuse the malevolent forces, ensuring she could make it to her groom untouched by spiritual harm. It was a piece of armor against the jealousy of the unseen world. Another peculiar good luck charm is the rabbit's foot. This belief is a relic from ancient Celtic traditions. Rabbits, because they burrow underground, were thought to have a direct connection to the spirits of the underworld. They were creatures that lived between two realms. Carrying a part of the rabbit, specifically its foot, was believed to grant the carrier some of that creature's mystical power and luck. It was a piece of the underworld you could carry in your pocket, a totem that connected you to the powerful chthonic forces that govern fortune and fate. After a holiday meal, two people might pull on a wishbone. This tradition of divination dates back to the ancient Etruscans and was later adopted by the Romans. They believed birds were oracles and their bones held sacred power. After eating a chicken, they would leave the clavicle, the wishbone, to dry in the sun. People would then stroke the bone and make a wish, believing they were tapping into the bird's divine connection. The Romans took it a step further. When supplies of the sacred bones were low, two people would have to break it, with the person holding the larger piece being granted the wish. It was a competition for a single drop of divine favor. Have you ever woken from a dream about death and felt a lingering sense of dread? In our modern world, we might dismiss it as anxiety. But for our ancestors, it was a literal warning. Across many ancient cultures, dreams were not seen as psychological noise but as messages from the gods, prophecies, or visitations from the spirit world. A dream predicting death was taken with the utmost seriousness. It was a glimpse into a pre-written fate, a warning that allowed the dreamer or their loved ones to prepare for the inevitable, to settle their affairs, and to make peace with the gods before their time came. Whistling a cheerful tune seems harmless, but in many parts of Asia and Europe, whistling at night was strictly forbidden. It was believed that the sound, carried on the night air, could attract wandering ghosts, demons, or other malevolent spirits. In some traditions, it was thought to mimic the language of these entities, essentially summoning them to your location. It was an open invitation for the supernatural to cross from their world into yours. The silence of the night was sacred and was not to be disturbed by such a careless, spirit-calling sound. The wild parties and resolutions of New Year's Eve are modern echoes of ancient survival rituals. The practice of celebrating the new year with noise and rituals dates back to ancient Babylon, over 4,000 years ago. Their new year, which occurred in spring, was a crucial time. They believed a chaotic battle between their sky god, Marduk, and the sea goddess, Tiamat, decided the fate of the world for the coming year. The raucous celebrations, feasts, and rituals were designed to help Marduk win, ensuring a good harvest and preventing the world from descending back into chaos. Your New Year's Eve noisemaker is a distant echo of a plea to the gods for cosmic order. You might have seen someone wearing a blue glass bead with an eye on it, the Nazar. This is the evil eye charm, an amulet with a history stretching back at least 3,000 years. Appearing in ancient Greece and Rome, the belief is not in the charm itself, but in the power it guards against: the evil eye. This is the idea that a person can cause harm, illness, or misfortune to another simply by looking at them with jealousy or envy. The amulet works by deflecting the malicious gaze. The eye on the charm stares back at the world, protecting its wearer from the unseen, destructive power of human envy. A lesser-known but still practiced superstition involves real estate. For centuries, people have been burying statues to bring luck, most commonly when trying to sell a house. The practice is most famously associated with Saint Joseph, the patron saint of families and homes. The ritual involves burying a small statue of Saint Joseph upside down in the yard of the house for sale, with the belief that the saint, wanting to be returned to a place of honor, will intercede to bring a buyer quickly. It's a physical act of faith, a way of burying a prayer in the very earth you hope to sell. Finally, we end with a phrase you've likely said yourself: don't jinx it. You say it when things are going well, when you're on the verge of success and you don't want to ruin it. This simple phrase is born from an ancient and universal fear of hubris, the fear of tempting fate. It comes from a deep-seated belief that boastful pride, or even just acknowledging good fortune out loud, can attract the attention of jealous gods, vengeful spirits, or an impartial, cruel fate. These forces, upon hearing your confidence, might decide to teach you a lesson in humility by snatching your victory away at the last moment. To say, "Don't jinx it," is to whisper a plea to the cosmos to not notice your luck, to let you slip by unharmed. From knocking on wood to whispering, "Don't jinx it," your life is woven with the threads of these ancient beliefs. They are the ghosts of forgotten gods, the echoes of primal fears, and the remnants of sacred rituals you still perform every single day. But what if these aren't just dead beliefs? What if the line between superstition and reality is thinner than we think? The true mystery isn't where these ideas came from, but why, after thousands of years, they still have such a powerful hold on us. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and share this video with fellows. Your support helps us bring you more captivating content like this.